It never was a word he cared for, queer. You salvage language, scrape back its veneer, dispense with sneers, make vintage, but you can't relive the years. At school, I had a Walkman to buy me silence. Tried to confiscate that teacher, preacher, told me I always liked the gay groups. But the Pet Shop Boys weren't gay, no way. Never stopped to think, West End girls, not sex dwarf per se. There never was a box to lock marked queer. Colours cleaved a child, bereaved of north and industry. Impossible dreams of being and being seen to sparkle when Boy George was on TV. Curious to see, like Claire Grogan singing Happy Birthday, how much of me thought differently. And if boys wore white and grey, I'd forge my shirts of gold, do things my own way. We were mixed up, deep cut on discontent, not understood back then. How new romantic glamour masked a lot of pain. Society in the process of losing its name, lost on a child so vain. All that mattered was the girls loved me for liking Duran Duran, Frankie and Wham, which was cool because only Frankie was really queer. Banned and sexy statements worn in black and white about war and stuff. Simon Le Bon tied a scarf in his hair on the back page of Smash Hits, and I wanted to be there, though Claire wore ribbons. So I ran around school with my hair like that, being a bit like that, because the girls loved girly boys with beautiful hair that I never had, and the hairdresser laughed and butchered me, but that's another story. Never happy with what I did have, or Spandau Ballet on loincloths on the Smash Hits calendar, because that scared my mum the most. She was not impressed by protest, or Tony Hadley's shiny handbag, or Mark Almond's twisting hands, or that the Boy George preferred a cup of tea to sex. Thank you. That English vice, hypocrisy, sex and subculture sanitized for mass consumption, pushing people into hidden, dangerous places, not of their choosing. I've spent my life deconstructing normality. Can't go back, even if you'd like me to. It's a paradox. Normal never existed to begin with. We find the people out there who will celebrate who we are without filter, without censure, without an intake of breath. Question lectures about equality, hot on a quiet word about the need to conform. You called it overconfidence, which means you've never walked in my shoes on a dark night in a provincial town, not even imagined it, nor thought what it feels like to be strung up by what you call normal. You analyze me closely like an exhibit in a zoo, and I'm the bear who'd like to eat you. My tie-dye clockhouse top, fine, not the mules, because the blue nails and the skirt would disturb the students. Don't wear it. Conform for your own sake. All our lives we unpick the parts that are truly us from those we've created to protect ourselves. Students are angry, not with me, with you and your abuse of power, your failure to understand your own oratory or dismantle statues, which sustains the power you stole, still lights your arrogance enough to disinvite us from exhibitions for being too explicit. You're explicit. Our beauty, freedom, passion, your fierce social values of millennials will win out, which they will, because behind them a movement of Zoomer revolutionaries, armed, coming for your hateful mockery, embracing trans rights, gender fluidity, spaces where you can express your true self and dress how you want, safe in the knowledge that in this sex and body positive community, we've finally been set free, can finally breathe. Since the time that has elapsed between the repetition of those two words, the pain of explaining over and over again, and before misappropriating the word woke from the Sunday Telegraph be put on notice, we will no longer be shamed. Thank you. Mancunian comes and goes in waves. Pubs and clubs, hustle and bustle. Old signs covered and uncovered again. Comic book geeks and inked misfits scratching the underbelly of the city. People on the edge of art and mortality. Let's fill this town with artists and musicians, skaters, record shops and vintage, stag and hen parties, drunks. Turn bars into lounges, into boutique hotels. Turn old brick into new brick, which doesn't fit. Riots and let loose in the night. Street artists who understand this. Like the Carnaby Street of smash hits and trilby hats, empires which rise from ruins, flush artists from safe spaces, turn others into stars on a cigarette-stained walk of fame, nomads moving from one area to another to start the regeneration process once again, tidying up a single S left hanging on an adjacent building, shoes, half catalogue price, half catalogue price. Thank you. England's on fire. Boris, the petrol for a nation on it. They're shouting from the rooftops, save us, save us. Rich landlords take out loans, poor people repay. Good people turn their backs, take selfies, make sure the flames are in frame. Homeowners pull up the ladder, vote to keep their winnings. The establishment mobilizes, protects its own. The media smirks, asks whether Corbyn watches the Queen's speech live or on catch-up. Grown-up opposition. An army of young people in search of a future knocked on doors for the first time, selling an end to 4 decades of failure that leaves them working to survive instead of working to enjoy life. Grown-up opposition casts them aside for the housing of landlords, sucks up to a crumbling red wall that hates cynical lawyers, backs the government. Grown-up opposition sanctions torture and murder, leaders draped in flags on Zoom, takeovers of Liverpool, accepts fire and rehire, lockdown fanaticism. Where's the comfort for that army of young people locked up on a whim, swapping visible deaths now for invisible deaths later? Deaths the middle classes will feel more comfortable about. Thank you. Misplaced in the caves of time, a manuscript with my secret code etched on it. You discover the missing letters, the Soutrathans, the original inhabitants of the planet had taken as their own, and scoured over for centuries, feeding off sadness woven through the passages that kept them alive, a labyrinthine puzzle that to solve may be to die. For it was written on their ancient stones that should they let it be known that happiness had become their own, life would drain from them. And so they concealed what they couldn't reveal in old stories and new mysteries, fables that warned of the misery happiness would bring. And now they stand on the brink with you and your map of sorts, speak in hushed tones of those that have gone before, those who have come from strange planets with faith and placed letters at their door. And the Soutrathans who smiled in anticipation saw nothing more, but were spared the calamitous roar of defeat, as in their thousands the heavy feet trudged back over the plains, vowing never to trust travellers or faith, to accept sadness as their destiny, and to keep manuscripts and their secrets hidden. Thank you. Wiping the dust off our outfits, the straitjacketed existence, only music, only nightclubs. People incidental to living, separated by a screen, the distance of continents. Eerie village silence in a city which usually gorges on noise, spews people onto pavements at 3 a.m. Where you run to be yourself, to unravel, to save yourself often. Where ideas become lyrics, become poems, become sound. Not just a nightclub, not just a song. Gender, unbound, glamour. We find lost hearts contorted by absence, watch dance floors get dragged outside to share our lives. A cigarette, close proximity of others, of lovers, of strangers. Makeup, nail art, curbside conversations, fragments of life we'll hold on to for an hour, renew ourselves with, sing, misremembering lyrics of albums we've not yet danced to, and songs we've not yet written. Where Insta becomes chat, becomes dates, becomes loss. Where an entry on your phone becomes the girl who forgot. Where Monday is not the same as Friday for the stories told on Saturday, and the lies told on Sunday. You whisper something I'll never forget, and you'll never remember. Not just a nightclub, not just wasted in a taxi. Your iconic cue. Where a kiss becomes infatuation, where rejection becomes motivation, where whiskey becomes tears, becomes rivers to the sea, where the moss on my jacket became you and me. Not just a nightclub, it's our life. Thank you. Screens turn black, we turn to Spotify. Blank sheets of paper spell out resistance will not die. Dissent lashed to the Catherine wheel of state TV, limbs crushed, but how it sparkles beautifully. Each disciple of our mutiny condemned on every channel, while one lies immutably in state. Hail the nation's grandmother, wrapped in a warm casket of soft misogyny, finally absolved of all responsibility for the crippling winter energy bills that were coming to her 6 homes and 30 regal estates. Clear the homeless from the people queuing, keep the optics going, renew the inequality. Like cats prolong the torture when they'll kill it anyway. Dissent tear limb from limb and use what's left as fuel. Keep the bills down, throw them bones with sinews on. We'll keep the finer cuts. And while you're dying, sing, God save the King. Sing it louder, stand your lifeless body taller, fix your eyes on heaven as celestial Lizzie rises, scrape your jaw from the floor. It ain't cheap heating stables, they call that MP 6 grand Zahawi for the taxpayers' cash she stashed away to keep horses and the bales of stacked straw warm. a genuine mistake. He promised to repay one day. He could just apologise, not get down before a judge and grovel like you and me. The establishment's a different kettle of fish, you see, and make sure you get a new kettle. It will save you money if you can outlive the next few winters and don't get gunned down, unarmed, like Chris Cabba. Watch Sky News describe protesters marching in as mourners filing in. Listen to King Charles III curse his leaking pen, because that's when life gets shit for them. Lead the food banks into mourning, and respectfully the poor can choose to starve or freeze to death. You know the media doesn't work for you, so don't wait for them to come for you before you say enough. That performative grief for an old person dying clouds the memory of that young man whose mother is crying, coerces our consent when your body language is screaming no. Don't write abolish monarchy or not my king. You can now be arrested for that kind of thing. Don't be ill on Monday. Don't even try out of respect for Her Majesty. You can go and fucking die. Don't speak ill of the dead. Don't be a shit when you're alive. The 12 million note to stop your son from frying. The police act that stops real people to find the jewels that you ransacked from India, Egypt, Barbados, South Africa, Kenya and Fiji.
Amen.
We're very much not a racist family. Now Mama and Papa are dead, and Lord Mountbatten was a hero, not a prototype for Prince Andrew. And in islands of the southern seas, that one-time British colony, thank God the world did not see you as you saw them. The Diamond Jubilee Tour, Duke and Duchess have got the merch held aloft on portable thrones. It didn't even cross your noble minds how bright your whiteness shone, how very much not people of colour you're fucking riding on. Thank you.
Oh.